Sheryl Swoops has been throwing shade at Caitlin Clark pretty much all along, and that continues again here. Let's listen to the reaction of Sheryl Swoops when she found out that Caitlin Clark was Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year.
I'm curious to know who the other candidates were, but the fact that that's the very first WNBA player to ever win Time Magazine Athlete of the Year is pretty special. And my question is, like the criteria, is it based off of her performance on the court, which, yeah, she had a great year, or is it more about the impact that she had on the game this season?
Caitlin, obviously, in the media, have been very,
She has a great marketing team.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm just hoping.
She's trying to stay at the barbecue, goddamn, because,
And Gilbert Arenas chiming in there as well, saying she's got a great PR team and she's just trying to stay at the barbecue. Meaning that she's trying to say the right things. Caitlin Clark talking about how she believes that her whiteness is a privilege that has given her advantages that some of the black players in the WNBA have not been afforded. And of course, that's one of the things that we've heard repeatedly, is that Caitlin Clark's popularity is because she's white, that there's some element of white supremacy in her fanship, and that it's amplified racial tensions in the league. But it seems to me, and look, I know that there's idiots out there. I've always said 5 to 10%, and maybe I'm being kind to humanity here when I say this, but 5 to 10% of human beings are idiots. That's WNBA fans, that's NFL fans, that's you name it. That's people that are getting up and going to work at Walmart. It's people that are physicians. 5 to 10% of people, and again, might be a conservative estimate on my part, are assholes. But you're never going to get rid of that. But Caitlin Clark, again, her impact is because she's an incredible talent. She's an incredible player. She took the interest of a lot of people who didn't give a single shit about the WNBA, and she made them care. And it wasn't her whiteness, believe me. It was not her whiteness. I don't see it. It's the incredible talent that she has, and she's in a difficult position here because she issues a statement where she acknowledges that she has white privilege. And that doesn't make Gilbert Arenas happy. Gilbert Arenas just blows it off with kind of an eye roll, saying, well, you know, she's just saying the right thing because she knows that that's what she's supposed to say. But if she doesn't say anything, what's the reaction? It's a catch-22, folks. She says what they are basically alleging, and it's just like, oh, well, she's just saying that. If she doesn't say it, well, then the criticism is that Caitlin Clark isn't being responsible and she's not acknowledging the elephant in the room, at least as those people see it. Megyn Kelly is chiming in, and Megyn Kelly's not a fan of it. She feels like Caitlin Clark is capitulating to people that are trying to make a racial issue out of something that really isn't. You can see here Megyn Kelly saying, look at this. She's on the knee, all but apologizing for being white and getting attention. This is self-flagellation. Please pay attention to the black players who are really the ones you want to celebrate. Condescending, fake, transparent, and sad. See, this is what happens. Caitlin Clark, who has handled everything so gracefully, and the best thing that Caitlin Clark has done is that she's kept her attention on playing ball, 90+%. People are talking about this. People are talking about that. Caitlin Clark is an icon to racist and people who only care about her because she's white. Then you've got other people saying, well, the WNBA players, they're whiny and they're complaining and they're jealous and they're just saying this because she's getting the attention that they've yearned for and they've never gotten it. And so they're blaming it on her whiteness. And through all of it, what did Caitlin Clark do? She just went out there and put up 20 points and 10 assists every night and got the Indiana Fever franchise turned around and got them into the playoffs, a sad sack team. She focused on basketball and she stayed above the fray. And now she felt compelled to comment And Gilbert Arenas and Sheryl Swoops don't give a shit. And Megyn Kelly is criticizing her as well. So see, this is what happens. Caitlin Clark, learn a lesson from this. Focus on basketball. Let the other people talk. Let them make the noise, because all you're going to do is create more distractions for yourself, and all you're going to do is make people upset with you, because there is no right answer, Caitlin, because you did nothing wrong in the first place. You happen to be white. You didn't choose to be white. Nobody chooses their race. You're a great basketball player. Continue being great at basketball and let other people worry about the sideshow bullshit element of your career, because it is not going to profit you to dive into the culture wars and start taking the bait that is being given you. I understand why she did it. She's a young woman. She's trying to do the right thing. I'm sure she wants to be in a work environment in the WNBA where she doesn't feel that a lot of people are against her or dislike her. I get it, but it's not going to work, Caitlin. It's just not going to work. Take a look at that. You're going to piss off people on both sides, and you're a completely innocent party in all of this. You're just a great basketball player, and that's why you're Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year. Justin Trudeau, speaking of, look, Gilbert Arenas, shut up. Sheryl Swoops, shut up. Megyn Kelly, I love Megyn Kelly, but in this particular case, the criticism of Caitlin Clark, I hate to see it, but I'll tell you somebody that should really shut up is Justin Trudeau, because I've had about enough of his mouth. Justin Trudeau, now most recently, criticizing the United States, Governor Trudeau, in fact. He could be the governor of our 51st state. In fact, Canada, Donald Trump very graciously offering for our country to embrace Canada as the 51st state. And I hate to troll Canada very hard, because I love my Canadian friends. I truly do. But man, we got the socialism train barreling down the tracks with Justin Trudeau. And he's criticizing now the United States of America for rejecting, in his opinion, 2 female candidates for president in the last 3 elections. And of course, it deeply, deeply concerns Governor Trudeau. Let's listen to his words.
No, it shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
Well, there's the proud feminist virtue signaling to everyone what a great person he is. I love women. I believe that you'll always have a friend in Governor Trudeau, because that's what I believe in. Look, don't criticize the United States for not electing female presidents. There's a lot of problems with this. One, you're voting for the candidate that you think has the best ideas. Maybe that's a woman, maybe that's not a woman. So again, we're into this identity politics. Justin Trudeau admonishing the United States. Well, take a look in the mirror. How many prime ministers has Canada elected that are female? You know how many you've elected in the history of Canada? 0. It's 0 to 0, motherfucker. So don't talk about how the United States has rejected women and talk about what a friend you are, because your country's record is the same as ours. Canada has had a female prime minister, but she was basically Gerald Ford. Brian Mulroney resigned back in the early 1980s, and a woman named Kim Campbell took the position for 6 months, and then she got voted out. So the people of Canada have yet to choose a female leader either, Governor Trudeau. So stop talking about the United States of America, because I'm not having it. This is a great country that produces power hitters like Jack Clark, quite frankly. Do you remember? And this is the only show where you're going to get a segue from Justin Trudeau to Jack Clark, by the way. I hope you appreciate that. I said throw up a hand if you remember the distinct little window of time when Jack Clark was considered the most dangerous bat in the game. Because that was a real thing, I assure you. A lot of us remember those 1980 St. Louis Cardinals. You get Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, and Willie McGee on base. Maybe a walk, an infield single, another single, and now the bases are loaded, and here comes Jack Clark to hit a grand slam or drive a couple of them in with a gapper. First home run I ever saw in person. And that's something that little boys remember, at least nerds like me. 1980 at Riverfront Stadium. First game I ever saw. San Francisco Giants at the Cincinnati Reds. Third guy up, Jack Clark, hit one out to center field right over the 404 sign. 1980. That's been over 44 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Jack Clark was a bad man. And now we'll pivot back to more serious things. I thought maybe you guys could use a little bit of a breather there for a second. Let's talk about Elizabeth Warren. Let's get back on the shut up Thursday train here. Because there's a lot of people that are out there just talking stuff that really need to think about it. You know, Abraham Lincoln said it's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. And we got a lot of folks out there these days on the left that are removing all doubt. Elizabeth Warren among them, speaking about the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, allegedly by Luigi Mangione, making some comments here that I think are deeply, deeply concerning. Let's listen to Elizabeth Warren on this subject.
And look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
You can only push people so far. Then they take matters into their own hands. What does that sound like? Do you see? I've had it here. This is the leftist movement in this country. The whole idea is you can't hurt anybody's feelings. Words are violence. These are the people who would have you deplatformed from major social media for saying something that could hurt somebody's feelings, such as dead naming a transgender person. Somebody who didn't call Elliot Page, who referred to Elliot Page by the previous name of Ellen. That's something that would be considered hate speech by a lot of people on the left. And that it's something that is tantamount really to violence. But yet when somebody goes out and guns down someone on the street, and it doesn't matter what you think of the guy's career. I'm no huge fan of healthcare companies either. I've said before on this program, I don't know who is. Who roots for healthcare companies, right? We generally don't do that. But no matter how much you disagree with something, no matter how much you dislike something, the answer is never to go out and perpetrate violence on someone in response to that. And you would think the super sensitive, easily upset about every little trivial thing, the people who think that men should be in women's sports because you wouldn't want to hurt someone's feelings, would understand that doing things like putting up wanted posters with CEOs' names and pictures on them, and you can see the one of Brian Thompson there, X'd out, basically saying, okay, there's one, and then you've got the others up there. Whoever posted those is inciting violence against those people. It's an incitement to violence. And Elizabeth Warren tried to walk it back, but tacitly making a comment like that, I think is very, very irresponsible for anyone, much less a United States senator, to say something like that. Steve Forbes commented on this. I believe that we have this, Tim. If we have Steve Forbes, let's roll that. Okay, we don't have Steve Forbes. Steve Forbes, I will just tell you, says that basically this is indicative of a moral rot. Things like this. You know, Kyle Rittenhouse is like such a boogeyman to the left. The idea that Kyle Rittenhouse went out and committed gun violence and killed a couple of people. They don't seem to realize that he was being attacked by those people. and that he shot, whatever you think about the young man being out with a gun, if you look at the facts of the case, this is another thing that made me lose faith in the mainstream media. I've talked about how the Very Fine People hoax got me, and it got me for several years. I'm embarrassed about that, but I'm going to talk about it to you right here publicly because I think it's very important. There are still tons of people in this country who believe the Very Fine People hoax. And ABC News, and they let Kamala Harris get away with talking about it during the same debate that Donald Trump was getting fact-checked left and right. They perpetuated it. They created that narrative, and they've been happy to sit back and let people have an inaccurate conclusion about Donald Trump's thoughts on what happened in Charlottesville. Well, Steve Forbes is sitting here and saying, look, this is a form of moral decay in our country, that someone thinks they can go out there and talk about that. Going back to Rittenhouse for a second, if you look at the facts of that case, you can see that he acted in self-defense. Now, was it a great idea for a teenage boy to be out there with a firearm in a tense situation? That, if I was the parent, I wouldn't have wanted my kid out there to even be anywhere where they could potentially whiff a dangerous situation. And so I would have not liked that as a parent. But did he go out and just shoot people? No, he didn't. He shot them in response to being attacked. And again, this is just factual. But when something like Luigi Mangione, allegedly being the gunman who took down Brian Thompson, shot him in the back, what's more cowardly than that? Even in the Wild West, they had a code of ethics that said that you didn't do that. And I don't hear the cries for gun control. That's another one. Every time somebody gets shot, it's gun control, gun control. Where are the cries for gun control? I haven't heard one thing in this matter for that. And they don't seem to be very concerned about the sanctity of human life, quite frankly. And now, with that said, I will bring in the international streaming star from Nashville, Tennessee. Ronnie T-Shirts joins me, and Ronnie, there's a lot here that I've covered. Let's start with this issue here, Elizabeth Warren and the reaction of the left to the assassination of the CEO of United Healthcare. Is this a situation where it's just blatant hypocrisy, Ron? Because everything is so much about feelings. We can't hurt someone's feelings. Somebody, if they don't get to compete in this sport, it's unfair to them. If 12-year-olds don't get to have transition process begin to take place, that they might commit suicide. They're always talking about feelings and preserving people's mental health and the greater good of everything so that it's all roses and kittens and sunshine. But then when something like this happens, we're hearing some cold, cold shit from a lot of people on the left right now.
The hypocrisy on this is no different than the hypocrisy on everything else that has happened over the last, 4, 8 years, 12 years even, Ricky. It just seems like what's good for the goose is never good for the gander. You brought up something that I was going to bring up. I'm blown away that I haven't heard a single thing about gun control. Like, how are we not hearing a peep? Like, it makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, every time something happens in this country with a shooting, we're barraged with gun control, cries for gun control. It's time to talk about gun control. And have we even heard a single peep anywhere?
No, I haven't. I mean, maybe somebody said something, but I haven't seen it. And It certainly isn't a talking point for the left in this matter at all. So, what does that look,
hypocrisy,
I don't know what
Ricky.
the intention
Hypocrisy.
is, but the unintentional, at least, message that it's sending is, well, I guess we're concerned about gun control. Well, it depends on who gets shot.
Exactly.
Apparently.
Exactly.
That's the impression that they're creating, even if it's not the intention. And again, everything somehow seen through a party lens. What if it had been a MAGA? What if the person who shot the CEO of United Healthcare had been some guy wearing a red MAGA hat?
Yep.
We would have heard that this is the beginning of civil war, that these people have been so radicalized by Donald Trump that they're now acting vigilante justice, and we can't have it. The narrative would be completely different. Why can't we just look at things? Again, common sense. It is wrong. It is wrong to kill someone on the street by shooting them in the back. It's wrong. Do I have to sit here on this show and say this? The Taylor Lorenzes of the world, if it was just Taylor Lorenz, who may be a crazy person, for all I know, for the things that she says publicly, there's always going to be that 5 or 10% that are nutty, and that goes for Democrats, Republicans, and everything else. Look, there just are. There's crazy people in every political party, no doubt about it, Ron. But having said that, dude, the hypocrisy here is off the charts. That you can't be portraying yourself as sensitive to everything, and then when one of the most callous, cold things that we've ever seen happen in society, just the public killing of a man, suddenly now, well, it's a different thing. It just absolutely doesn't wash for me,
Ricky,
Ron. I want to get to one.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Well, speaking of hypocrisy, imagine if somebody else had said that to Joy Reid, right? And it was somebody that she didn't really agree with normally. She would have called her out on it. But
dude.
Yep.
Well, Donald Trump wants to put people before firing squads, is
Correct.
what they're saying to us with a straight face, Ron.
Right.
So are you freaking kidding me? You're absolutely right. If a Trump acolyte went on television and said, "Well, this is what happens when people get upset," these are the same people that that still want to say that January 6th was an insurrection. No, and look, January 6th sucked. It was embarrassing. It was bad. All of those things. But insurrection, that's like saying that, like, you're gonna. Hey Ron, let's invade France with plastic utensils and see if we can take over the country. Is that a real attempt at a revolution? Well, it is France, after all. But is that a real attempt at a revolution, or is that just like, people going crazy? All right, anyway, Ron, let's talk about Ohio State, which is why I bring you in here. I need a palate cleanser here. And Josh Williams is an Ohio legislator who sent out a message on X just the other day saying that he wants to introduce the OHIO Sportsmanship Act, which would make it a felony to plant a flag at midfield at an Ohio State football game. Look at this. This is written up. This is a real law that this guy wants. No person shall plant a flagpole with a flag attached to it in the center of the football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of a college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a felony. Ron, what is going on here, dude? I mean, he got carried away. I mean, I know it's a big rivalry. I know nobody feels good about Michigan beating you guys at home, but we don't have to send the Wolverines to prison, do we?
I'm hiding my face in shame.
Dude.
Help me, Ron. Good Lord.
What am I supposed to say?
He's not speaking for me. The way.
He's not speaking for me. He's certainly not speaking for my friends who've talked about this. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, literally embarrassing. A felony? And then he goes and calls it the OHIO. Embarrassing. The dude, like, we can have a conversation about whether you think that that's acceptable or not to plant the flag, but it's a felony. Could you imagine? Are you ready, Ricky? I'm not going to take credit for this. I saw somebody post this in a reply. Could you imagine the kid from Michigan pops that in the field at Ohio Stadium, and it's a felony. And a couple years from now, he goes to get a job, and they say, "Oh, Mr. Smith, seems here that you've been convicted of a felony. Ooh, would you like to go ahead and explain that? We don't normally hire felons, but would you like to explain it?" Well, I was playing for Michigan football, and I planted our flag at the middle of the stadium, and I'm now a felon. Like, come on, man. What's this guy's name again? Representative
Take
Josh
a look here.
Williams.
His name is Josh. His name is Idiot McMoron. His name is Representative Josh Williams, Ron. But look at the response here from the 3-year letterman, one of the
most hilarious people
X
on
accounts
Twitter
out there. Yeah, who is a hilarious guy. He says, "Delete your account and resign."
Yes.
And look at the
Yes.
ratio, Ron. You're familiar with the concept of ratio.
Yes.
That is when your comments outpace your likes
What do you get?
and your
194
retweets.
likes?
And look at that. Yeah, this has got like over twice as many comments as likes, I believe, which is
This is
encouraging. but it
clearly-
shouldn't have any likes.
Somebody
He's got like
got
14,000 people or whatever it says there that agree with him.
either
So, maybe that's
he's
a little troubling.
Ricky, either he's just really, really dumb, this Josh Williams guy, or somebody got in his ear and he's like, yeah. He's like, hey, you know what? You want to make a name for yourself? Like, Ohio State fans, they're outraged over this. They're outraged. You know what you should do? You should write a bill, see if we can get it passed.
Well,
like,
he's
honestly,
making
it's
a name for
embarrassing.
himself.
Listen, I know.
Can you imagine
I know
that, Bill?
I know as an Ohio State fan, Ricky, that Ohio State is widely hated. From sea to shining sea, we are despised. And this is part of the reason that we are despised. That bullshit that our own university did a couple years ago, trying to trademark like, I do it in fun, like we're the Ohio State University, but this bullshit, and it's why everybody hates us.
Ron, what's the capital of Ohio? Is it Columbus?
It is.
Okay, I thought it was. Elementary school coming in handy there for me. Do you think that Bill is like, I'm just a Bill sitting on the hill because Michigan beat us at midfield?
It's got a Buckeye necklace on it.
Why are you depressed, Bill? Because the guy who wrote me is stupid. I don't know. You got to flush it, Josh Williams. Take a look at this contraption, Ronnie. I said, you don't even know what luxury is until you've wiped your butt while ordering Pizza Hut and listening to some Captain and Tennille. Is that Elvis's bathroom? Was that next to the toilet that poor Elvis expired upon?
Well, you know what's so funny about that, Ricky?
That's the height of technology from its era, Ron.
Yeah, I was going to say
the aristocracy had those.
Yeah, what's so funny about that though is it was kind of letting us know like what the bathroom was going to be like years later, right? I mean, that's basically, sans the toilet paper. We've got our phones. We can listen to what we want and talk and whatever.
It was as close as they could get in that era to 2024 technology. The guy who invented that has got to be right up there with like Edison and the Marconi. The legends. He's underappreciated, whoever that man is.
Feels
so
like
many
that would
great
be
Americans get forgotten, Ron.
Feels like that would be like a Ron Popeil invention, the pocket fisherman guy.
Yeah. I would love to see the infomercial at 1:00 in the morning where somebody is, it's like, do you think talking on the phone's enough? But wait, you can listen to the radio. Ronnie, have you seen there is a 20-year-old UCLA student, someone who underwent gender transition, and the student is suing two California doctors, saying that the treatment that began when they were 12 took them down a life-altering and irreversibly damaging path that the student now regrets. We hear a lot about this. The detransitioning stories are a lot more common, I think, than the left would have you believe. The people who are pushing this and trying to mainstream this. And I would argue in many cases, children being influenced to do this, because I don't believe that at age 12, anybody is capable of making that kind of a permanent decision about their body and about what they want the next 70 odd years or so of their life to look like, Ron. But what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, it's insane that we're even having this conversation. It's funny because I don't know, I was doing something in the kitchen the other day and the TV was on, and it was there was a commercial for a movie that was out, and it was R-rated. And it's somehow, and I don't know why they did it, because I'm not used to hearing it, but they said, must be 17 or with parents to see this movie. And I immediately thought to myself, hold on, wait a second. We're legislating whether or not kids can go to a movie because they're not of a certain age, but we don't need the parents' consent for this other stuff. And there's the whole tattoos and piercings and all that kind of stuff too before you're 18. So I don't know, Ricky. It's just bizarre to me that this is news, right? I mean, I know the time we live in, but it still blows my mind every time that we hear this news, as it's
Ron,
like, wow,
when you see families with multiple trans kids, that to me, and I'm sure that anything is mathematically possible,
chaos theory
can happen in theory. But I have seen multiple, this is anecdotal admittedly, but I've seen multiple cases of more than one trans kid in the same family, and in some cases adopted children. So you can't even make the argument that, maybe genetically there's something that has made this particular, family, prone to perhaps, something. I think that in so many of these cases, it is parents that are driving this, telling their kids this. The kids, being kids, children absorb all kinds of things that their parents tell them. And so, you could very easily get spun around if you had an adult in your life who wasn't mentally healthy and who was pushing stuff on you that you were simply too young to fully understand. People get put into cults and stuff all of the time. I mean, look, I don't want to make a comparison that's unfair. As I've said before, gender dysphoria is real. Some people do have gender dysphoria. It's also very rare. But, you take a look at super religious families, name it, whatever it is, right? Kids who grow up mega religious, and when they're 13 or 14, they believe all kinds of things. And then when they're 21, they're not religious anymore because they got out of there. And I'm not saying there's something bad about being religious, but I'm just using that as an example of parental influence that, whether good, bad, or the other. Some parental influence is great. Some parental influence isn't great, but you don't really know sometimes what your own thoughts are until you get older. And that's a big part of the reason that we have these protections in place for children. The state of Washington is talking about putting a division for transgender athletes, in a sense. Take a look at this tweet from OutKick's own Riley Gaines, saying that, and again, and this happened in Washington, the girls 400 meters, and you can see here, take a look there. It looks like Secretariat at the 1973 Belmont, Ron. Look at that. Is that not the human equivalent of Secretariat? Do we know what Secretariat's gender was? Look at this.
Yeah, that's.
Let's play
Look
a
at
game.
the size
Guess
difference.
the
Look at the
biological
size
male.
difference.
Can you win? Can you win the game, Ron? We're going to play a game here. It's called Guess the Biological Male. I'm going to guess the one that just crossed the finish line. Way far fucking ahead of everybody. Look at the shoulders. Look at the posture. Look, again.
How
You're
does
going to
that-
sit here and tell me that having a male body is not, and I'm receiving confirmation from Tim that Secretariat was in fact male. In fairness, though, we don't know how Secretariat identified. I don't want to speak for Secretariat here, but are you kidding me, Ron? You're gonna.
How does that
these
dude
people
even
are
feel
gonna
good about
continue
winning?
to tell us with a straight face that there is not a competitive advantage here. And I don't care. I know that they must have gone through some process where there's no testosterone. They're on, and probably not running as fast as that individual would have ran without undergoing whatever transition that the person is undergoing. Veronica Garcia is the person's name now. It used to be Donovan Brown here, according to Riley Gaines' tweet. All right. Well, Veronica Garcia might not be as fast as Donovan Brown was, but Veronica Garcia is way fucking faster than the biological females that just got cheated in that particular competition. So Washington thinks they can create an open division for transgender athletes, and maybe that's the solution to our problem. I don't think it's going to go over well, however, with the crowd that says that don't believe your lying eyes. There is no advantage here. There's no advantage. You're just a bigot, and you're discriminatory, and you're a terrible person if you think that individual shouldn't be allowed to race with those girls and just absolutely blow them off the track like they were standing still. Look like they were racing you and me, Ron. Give me a fucking break. Common sense. Common sense.
I just want to know, listen, I was never a high-level athlete, but I played sports and I was.
Don't tell that to
competitive
Mike Tomczak.
we need to get him
thinks
on
you
the
were.
show.
I'll ask him.
I do not understand. I cannot even fathom feeling joy whipping some girls' asses in a race when you know that you've got this crazy advantage. Not just a crazy advantage. It doesn't, if I went out and I don't even know, played basketball against some 6-year-olds right now, I'd beat the crap out of them. When am I going to come home and go, Lori, guess what? Man, you know that little Jimmy down the street? I whipped his ass in basketball today. How do you feel good about that, Ricky?
Right. Where is the pride in it? It's like these people who go to pay lakes that are stocked with 10 billion fish, and then they catch a few and they hold them up like they're fucking
the deer inside a fence.
Bill Dance.
The deer's
whatever
inside of
his
some
name
fences
was.
on a field. I shot that deer. Well,
yeah,
there was
it's like the guy from Jimmy John's going to Africa because he's rich enough that some guys drive him out and say, hey, there's a hippopotamus. You can shoot him at point blank range.
We'll take a picture.
Come back home. Yeah, I don't know. Well, Ron, we live in complicated times. Sometimes every day of my life, in fact, Ron, I yearn for the simpler days of things like paperback book covers. Remember when our biggest problem was what we were going to write on the outside of our book cover? This one used to say Algebra 2, but now it's about to say Winger or something equally awesome. Kip Winger, one of the great hair band lead frontmen back in the era. That guy was a chick magnet. I can tell you that. I don't know, Tim. I didn't get that. What do you want me to do
here, Tim? I used to write
Tim?
the KISS logo.
Am I going to what the fuck, Ron? Okay, well, okay. Tim wants me to explain what this is. Look, back in the day, they used to want you not to fuck up your textbooks. So they would instruct students to create book covers from old paper shopping bags
Turn them
And
inside
you
out.
would fold them up and put them there. And the idea is that we wouldn't fuck up our textbooks and they would survive better for the upcoming years of students that would be using them as hand-me-downs. I'm going to require you to go to OutKick.com, shop OutKick.com, in fact, and take advantage of the amazing holiday sale. Take it from Oscar Goldman, who says that the prices can't be beat, the apparel can't be beat. Just use the code HOLIDAY when you get there. All kinds of great OutKick merch. You can outfit yourself for 2025 and do it for pennies on the dollar, my friends, and I would encourage you to do so. Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.